that note, what a streak you got. My name is Eve.
My name is Sarah.
And we are Burnt Out Perfectionist.
Happy Monday. I wonder if it'll work. Do it again.
Happy Monday.
That way, if the last one sucked, I can just cut you in.
True.
Yeah.
I did do a little altering, so I think it should not be as weird when I had the headphones in.
Oh.
Tried to level it out.
Oh.
Who knows at this point? Because every time I get it right, Apple's like, no.
It could just also be like the scrubber that I use to make it sound better. That does it.
Oh, sometimes. I just straight up blame that, like, I try, and sometimes it's just like, no.
Yeah.
It is not Monday. It is Thursday for us.
It is Thursday for us.
We're trying to record a couple earlier just because, let's be honest, June.
Yeah, June is a hard month.
June has come to fest.
Yeah.
It's just a very hectic month. I also feel like we need to, like, pick a different month for it to be hectic. Like, can we choose, like, April?
Yeah, I'm kind of okay with being completely distracted if it's, like, hot outside.
Yeah. I am. Do you see my bit of a tan?
Oh, yeah.
Check 1 second.
My kid is, like, getting a tan. I looked at her yesterday. I'm like, oh, like, when was the last time you had a bath? And she's like, right? I'm trying to determine right now, Mom, if I have a tan or if I just have a solid level of dirt on my skin right now. Because obviously she plays outside. She's a kid. And I, like, looked and she had a bath. I'm like, nope, you're tan. And she's like, oh, I think I was on the verge of getting a burn, though. And I was like, well, don't forget about your sunscreen. She's like, it's not in my bag. I'm like, yeah, it is. I get that stick sunscreen because that's the only thing that will not explode in your kid's backpack.
Other thing that I'm annoyed by is how is it 2025 and I can't have clothes where I don't get tan lines?
What do you want the sun to get through your clothes?
Well, just so I don't have a very distinct line.
You know, people are going the opposite way, right? They're making sun-blocking clothing.
Oh. I just don't want to, like, I want it to be enough that it's not like I wear high-neck t-shirts and it looks like I'm a bobblehead.
I was about to say, if we were a visual podcast, I'd be like, enter picture here, my back at my wedding. That's what happens when you get burnt over 2-3 years and you're wearing a different style of top.
But that wasn't even, that was just like you fell asleep in the sun and you were like,
yeah.
I just remember you were like, I messed up. And I'm like, what? And you turned around, I'm like, we put so much fake tanner to try to fill it in.
Yeah, and you know what? It doesn't matter. It's still funny. There was one that I had literally from like 2 years prior that just never went away, no matter what I did.
I think the usual one I get is my watch tan.
Oh, my husband's watch tan is watch tanning right now. So hard. He gets so tan so fast, though. But of course, it's like mainly one arm because he drives around all the time.
I usually, like, my face just gets really freckly.
Mine too.
And then my neck does not tan.
I don't think mine does either, to be totally honest.
And then usually it's like my forearms, but my upper arms don't tan.
And yeah, no, the underneath, like, you know, the extra sock part of your arm, that whole part, it stays the same color. It's just the top part. I just get more freckles and it kind of gets darker. I'm like, look at my tan. And my husband puts his arm out. I'm like, you suck.
Oh, and then the shorts tan.
Yeah.
Where you basically just buy all your shorts the same length because if you don't, it's like you just look like a popsicle.
Oh, yeah. Last year I had like my biker shorts that I wore like a large majority of the time had an 8-inch inseam. And then some of them got wrecked. So then I bought ones that were a 6-inch inseam. There was a solid demarcation line on my leg for a while.
I don't really get soft tans. Oh, slide tans.
Oh, I'm not allowed to wear slides, but I do get sandal tans.
Those ones are really funny.
Yeah, they are quite funny, actually.
I want to, like, doodle on them and, like, drop, like, the sandals back on.
My kid said that. She was like, Mom, can I draw sandals on your feet? And I was like, not right now, maybe later. And she's like, I love how you're actually considering that. I said it as a joke. I'm like, oh, why not? It's like the people who get, like, just the fine line tattoos and then they let their kids color them in the coloring book.
If you didn't listen to last week's episode was our 100th episode, 100 episodes, where we just kind of recapped the past 100 episodes, chat about our favorite things, what's to come, what our aspirations and goals are, what we're hoping to accomplish by episode 200, which we've already gotten another subscriber overnight, so we're now at 91. Actually, let me open it now just to double check. Yep, 91 on YouTube. Very excited. I did also post a new blog today, and it was called Hear Me Out. Let's appreciate our rent. And it's about not wanting to leave my house and instead socializing in my own house and going outside and appreciating the home and kind of like doing stuff at home, so I'm kind of able to appreciate the rent, have more hobbies. Because I feel like a while ago, it kind of feels like you're almost failing when you don't like go out and socialize, like, oh, you don't leave your house. And I was like, wait, hold up. I don't leave my house because I don't want to. Not because I can't, because I don't want to. So I dove into that a little bit. Check it out on the blog at burntoutperfectionist.com. We're still hoping to post every week. Sometimes we forget. I might start posting a few more times every once in a while just to like get stuff out, as well as trying to come up with new things for Pinterest. If you have any ideas, let me know. And then other things include like trying to do more creative things with TikTok. We're working on new stuff for Overwhelmed, which is great, which I know we always say, but it's just. Are you wearing pants and a sweater tonight?
I'm cold today. This is like this is a good weight like cotton fabric though. You can find it on overwhelmthelabel.com or .ca. It is the proudly neurospicy hoodie. I'm wearing it in white, the embroidered one.
And I was looking at it today this morning and I was like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah. It's like one of like my fitted hoodies, so I'm like kind of okay with it, but kind of not. Sometimes I just need a hoodie that hoodies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like a hoodie. On today's episode, we thought we would talk about career regret and big life decisions.
Oh, sure.
So did we mess up?
Oh,
what?
That's so dark.
Well, it's just like, I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that. Like, they go to school, and I was talking with my coworker about it, and they're like, you know, when you hit a point, like, a few years in, you thought that you were going to love your career forever, and you're like, did I mess up?
That's the whole thing. So, like, back in my old day, because I'm the old fart on the podcast, you would go to school and like your main objective was like literally like college, university, or bust. But there were so many more like qualifications too that you had to have. Like you always had to have a second language if you were going to a university, but colleges like took a majority of people in, and you literally had to know what you were going to do for the rest of your life right then and there. Was what so many people were told. Our parents weren't like that. They were like, well, like figure out what you want to do first, is what they always said, or like whatever you're interested in, and then you kind of like work your way around from there. But you might find something else that you like to do. Like, but I know so many other people where it was like, oh my God, you went to school for this and then you did it for a year and you stopped. Wow, you totally bailed.
I've seen a lot of like teachers on my like TikTok do that.
There's a ton. There's a lot of people who started teaching like university or went to school for it during the pandemic, and they're already burnt out and done.
Yeah.
Which it's a lot to handle. I mean, they would have had to handle virtual learning for themselves, and then for when they were doing like their student teacher stuff, and then adapting. And it's like, it's not just them adapting as teachers, but like the kids who were born during the pandemic are a different breed of kids. And I know at my daughter's school, they were very like forward with that in the like kindergarten package and stuff like that. Like we realized these are the kids who were born and basically were born into a different world than anybody else and their siblings, and like how to do stuff. And they may act differently or regulate differently, or there's like so many other things. And like we're here to adapt to do that. And I think that's a huge thing to note, is like not only were people going through kids who were trying to figure out what a pandemic was, but now there's kids who their entire life has just been pandemic and post-pandemic.
Yeah.
And I can't even like imagine how much that is like mentally, as you were trying to, like the people who were like, I was in university like yourself during the pandemic. I graduated high school and now it's like I have a career and it's so many years later and I feel like I'm still 20 years old.
I think like I thought you were gonna I think it's also hard because like when you graduate high school, it's like you're like, oh, this is what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
And like my first half of college was like regular college, and then it was like the world shut down.
Yeah.
And then like the next year was just all online. And so then you enter this like area where you're like, oh my God, I want to change the world.
Yeah.
You know, everybody wants to be like that.
I know. That's what a lot of people, when they get a new job or if they start school, they're like, I have found my purpose. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm about to change everybody and blow everybody's fucking mind. Like, you're like, which is good. Like, you should be hyped when you're starting something new, especially if you're investing a lot of money into it, too.
Yeah.
Like, you should be committed to the idea of it and, like, super positive about it, but also, like...
And I think what came out of COVID, too, was a lot of, like, people say everything was, like, toxic environment. So, like, how can you enjoy going to work when it's, like, so toxic?
Oh, yeah. There was a lot of shit that was called out that shouldn't have been happening for years that people just accepted.
Yeah.
And then there was shit where it was like, no, you should show up to work on time.
Oh my God, time blindness. I'm sorry. I have a lot of understanding for a lot of things. When I saw this, there was this TikTok video of this, and you can hate me all you want. And she was like, so I said in my interview that, like, I can't have a specific start time because I have time blindness. And I was like,
I need an accommodation for my time blindness. Her video just showed up in my feed 3 days ago.
And I was like,
again,
time blindness? I was like, oh, like if you take a little bit longer, you focus on something, or if you're like a few minutes late for like a meeting or something.
Yeah.
I feel like that's different than like, or I might need to send alarms and stuff like that just to remind myself for things. And this girl was like, oh, well, I might not be able to show up until noon.
Because I might not realize what time it is.
Because I might need to sleep. And like, if I wake up in the morning, I might just not feel like it's the right time.
Hated the most famous words. I need to have work-life balance.
And I was like, what?
I know that one, or there's like people who don't even like know how to function, or maybe are not being allowed to function as an adult by themselves, and their parents are going to interviews with them. Did you see that?
What?
I can't even like imagine. So like I'm rewatching Modern Family right now, and there's like the amount that Alex tries to avoid having her family show up and shit. And then they do random shit like Phil's like, oh yeah, we have this exchange student. I'd send him all these pictures from like basically they were inferring that he was like a Russian foreign exchange spy. But he didn't register it. He's like, oh yeah, he wanted to learn all about American culture. My pen pal. That's what it was. And he's like, and she's like, great, Dad, I'm applying for a government job and they had to interview everybody. And you're basically telling them that you're leaking information of Russia. And he goes, no, and then they cut to the interview part. And he's like, and that's when I realized that I was a spy. I didn't know it. Like that type of thing. So it's like, there's these things that go along the way, which I understand when like, some people will be like, I never have my parents. That I don't even see that as a consideration. Like, no, our mom helped me prepare for like interviews and stuff, but like she either sat outside in the car or she would like come pick me up after. Like, I can't even fathom, like, I'm already nervous enough going into an interview. Like, I feel like if Dad went in with me, he would get hired over me because he'd be like, hey, what's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, hi, buddy.
Yeah, hey, what's going on, man? Do I know you? That whole, like, thing. And there's certain things that are now being, like, adapted in and almost seen as, like, normal, as, like, an expectation. I'm like, when the fuck did that become a thing? I would be so flabbergasted if, like, I remember when they were interviewing people during the pandemic and they weren't telling people that it was a group interview. And then people were signing in to like these like 10-person group interviews.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, first off, how the fuck is that HR person knowing who's doing what and like not confused? Like, do they sit back and watch the video after? Like, I don't know. There's, like you said, there's like a lot of different things that kind of go into that. But there's a lot of, well, I don't want to have this. And it's like to an extreme. Like work-life balance is understandable. You want to have like laws where maybe like your work can contact you after work hours or you have that line. But also like, I'm not going to show up and I don't have to do this. I don't know, blah, blah. And it's like, well, if it was part of your job description that you signed on for and you had that understanding and it was in the job description that you originally applied for, then like, why are you questioning it? Go find a different job then that fits whatever combination that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, yeah.
Which I feel like those people make it seem like when you work towards a career, it's like, oh, like there's like the positives and the negatives in each situation. But I feel like careers like, back 10 years ago versus now.
And they were very like bucketed. Like it was like, I want to go into medical.
Yep.
Medical, most of the time, what was it? Nurse, doctor.
Yeah.
Nobody knew what the fuck else anybody else did in the hospital. I swear to God. And then it would be like law enforcement, police officer, lawyer. And then it was like those little, like when you're playing like the game of life and you pull that career out, that's literally like what you get.
Accountant.
Versus like people who would be like, oh, I want to be in like media. And it was like, oh, you want to be an actor, an actress. No, they might want to be a voice actor. They might want to be a sound mixer. Like there's so many different other things, but people just see like I don't know, like the cliff notes of what those roles are.
Like the main ones that are like popularized.
The ones that are all over television shows.
Like nobody talks about what about being a secretary?
I know. That's the whole thing is like, I always thought office administration was super cool because our mom did that. And you can do it, but it also applies to so many other things. And I think that's a big thing is like, even when you're picking on going on that one career path, acknowledging all the stuff that you're acknowledging like all the stuff that you're learning and how like you can literally go like 25,000 different ways because of all that stuff you're learning, even though you think it's for that one role. Like I always state, I don't think a lot of people need to go to university and college for certain roles that they want to do. I think that there's a lot of kids who are set up to go to college and university, and there's a lot of like loans that are taken out or a lot of money that's spent by them, parents, grandparents, stuff like that, that doesn't need to be spent. Versus like for certain things like you can like learn on the fly and kind of get it from there. Versus, I mean, obviously, if someone's going to be a doctor, I want them to go to university. Like there's a lot of like medical roles that make sense, but I think a great thing is like a program, like what you went through for school, going through a specialized program for something that is specific, but that can also tear off into other roles. I think is a really great thing. It's that like, just go to university. Like I went to university in 2005 and I was in a general studies program and I took like all these little courses, but then I was required to take like a language and take all these other ones that I didn't even want to take in the first place. And they're like, well, that's what you have to do. And I was like, well, can I just take the courses that I want? And they're like, well, do you have a program that you want to be in? And I was like, no, like I'm still trying to like figure stuff out. But like if I go through the course book, these are the ones that I want to take. Well, you can take some of these, but then you have to take these 3 other ones. And I'm like, so cool. I'm spending $1,500 on 3 courses. Again, this is in 2005. $1,500 on 3 courses that I don't even want to take. And I only get to take 2 of the courses that I actually want to take.
And I think a lot of people, like, they'll be like, oh, I want to do this. So, like, oh, I want to go into interior design.
Yeah.
Or I wanted to go into event planning. From my knowledge and my large amount of Google searches, there is no event planning program.
So there used to be one at the college that I went to.
Yeah.
And they have that, but there was event planning and they had it as a separate like night course that you could take. Or what they would try to get you to do is if you were talking about stuff like that, is they try to get you to go into the hospitality management degree area, which is what I ended up getting. And doing stuff like that. At one point, they had an interior design course.
No, they still have those.
Oh, they still have it?
Yeah.
Okay. But at that time, it was like they had the course, but it was seen more as like I don't know if you call it undergrad or if you just call it like night school. Like it was those kind of courses. Like a community course that you could take on the weekend and sign up for.
Yeah, and I find that so many people are like, because I was talking to Mom about this, so many people are going to school for like science and stuff like that, and then they'll complete their degree, and then they're like, oh, I don't know what I want to do with it.
Yeah, because it's like you're set up to get the knowledge and to get all the information, but you're not really set up afterwards to kind of take it and roll with it. Or like, I remember when they give us like those aptitude tests in school that like told you what you would be. Mine told me I was going to be a detective. My husband's told him he was going to be a florist.
That really suits him.
He would have thrived as a florist. That man loves to garden. Like, how? That was in grade 8. And we got those.
Oh, I got architect.
You got architect? I literally got like
doctor.
administration or detective.
I got doctor or architect. And I was like, this is a lot of school.
Right? But they would give us stuff like that. And then it was like, but at the end, like, hopefully, I think it all depends on like the professors and stuff that you have. But I feel like there's a lot of setup in order to get the degree, but there's not a lot of like direction afterwards in general. Like, no, like academic counseling afterwards, unless you were able to get some sort of internship. I also feel like a majority of that stuff was set up before by universities, and now it's not. Now it's like it has to be the individual who does it. And then it comes down to like some of the people who are in university right now are lacking in social skills because they went to high school during the pandemic. So like the lack of social skills is equal to a millennial not wanting to answer the door or pick up the phone because we were told like there's a stranger and they're going to try to take you. Like it's that same like fear in someone's face of like, I don't want to make that phone call. I don't want to do this.
I think like a lot of, I heard, who was it? Somebody I know was talking about this and they were like, did you read The Anxious Generation? And it was like kind of like a shit on Gen Z.
Of course it was. Who was it written by? Some fucking boomer?
Written by a millennial.
Oh, really?
Because
sure it wasn't a Gen Xer. Those folks are hard.
This is what pisses me off. Is that we talked about before about the studies that Gen Z are less likely to drink, they're less likely to smoke, they're less likely to like get pregnant as teenagers and stuff.
You guys are less likely to be controlled. That's why people get mad.
Yeah. So they were like, oh, well, you have to like risk in order to like expand.
Yeah, you have to, or like even to get into like universities and colleges now. When you write that letter, you have to like state some like whole thing. So if you came from a home that was definitively stable and had all these things, you're boring. They don't want you. They want somebody else who either made some shit up or literally had a horrible fucking life.
Yeah, to give them the opportunity.
I know, and I'm like, I understand wanting to help people who have gone through shit, but also I feel like everybody should have an equal chance. I also think those letters are complete fucking bullshit.
I didn't have to write any.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
I had to write them.
Actually, no, I wrote one.
I had to write one, and it was like, what was a defining moment in your life? And I was like, defining moment of my life, I don't know, being born. Like, I remember talking to Dad about it, and he was like, I don't know, why didn't you just write about the fact that your brother has autism and like how much your life changed and how things were so different? And I was like, oh, okay. And I wrote that in. And then when I went, they were like, we really love the letter that you wrote about that. I'm like, first off, I think it's so weird that we're dumping all this personal information, like a diary, to like strangers in order to get more education. Like the transaction just felt gross. Like I left, I'm like, they quoted my thing. And Dad's like, oh, well, you're a really good writer. That's probably why. And I was like, is that not weird to you? Like, that weirded me out.
You know, it is weird. I don't like it when it's like you have to label things as like trauma in order to excel in things. Like, I just feel like, because I don't feel like that or like having a dead dad is like a card I should pull out to level up in my life.
I know. I feel like that's the whole thing. It's always like, I don't know, maybe because TV shows aren't that interesting nowadays. People are looking for it in real life, or they've been conditioned by like really intense shows and movies that like you need to have something like that. It's the weirdest balance in my opinion. And then you're going into that, you're like pouring your heart out, and then you're also giving them $50 to apply or more.
What I get bothered by is like they want you to say these things, and it's like, oh, well, this can help us deem like how you'll do in the future. I feel like if you're somebody who doesn't define your life and specific things as trauma, and you're able to kind of like work through them and not like require assistance with them, or if you haven't had issues, that's not meaning if people have issues that like, I feel like that's worse that like, oh, I got it, and because I labeled all of these things in my life that I just considered my regular life.
I know. I think a big thing is like, obviously, like people are speaking a lot more about like mental health and stuff, which is great. But also the like medical terms that are being overused or repurposed in different ways that were used for extreme situations like essay trauma. And then someone's like, I stubbed my toe on the cart. I had trauma.
And I know I was trauma.
I'm like, that's like two very, like, there's like, like you might get like a, or when someone's like, oh my God, I totally have PTSD because I don't know, someone walked up behind me and pulled my hair. Versus like somebody who literally went to war and has PTSD.
My other thing is, like, this is like the beginning of American Idol and The Voice when they have the blind auditions.
Oh my God, those interviews, like,
Nick, like, my life really changed because I didn't get on the basketball team.
Oh, we're starting to make bets on what it is.
And it's always like, oh, my dead parent. Oh, I had anxiety. I had depression. Or I didn't get fit. I didn't fit it.
Kid in my town
Died.
And I'm like, were you friends with this kid? They show no pictures of them with anybody. And I'm like, okay, I understand how that can be like an awakening of like, holy shit, maybe I should like do something else with my life or whatever. But like the over dramatic, the dramatizations of certain things. And it was like, life was really hard because I was the youngest of 4 kids.
What will kill me every time is watching the spring baking championship. And I don't care, I'm going to sound mean. There's one lady that every single time they're like, what are you going to do? Like, how do you feel? And every time she goes, I'm doing this for my daughter to prove to her that people can do hard things. And I'm like, no, you're not. Your child does not care. You are doing it for yourself because you want to accomplish something, which is totally okay. But why do you think that your 6-month-old is going to care?
Well, and that's the whole thing is I think it's like, there's a lot of people who play like the parent card, and I'm a parent, so I feel like I'm allowed to say it too. Like, it's like, I want to do this for this. Like, it's different when you're saying, for example, say nobody's gone to college in your family, and you're saying, I really want to go to college to do this. I'm so excited. And your afterthought is, I'll be the first person in my family to go to college. Versus the kid who goes, I want to go to college for my family. And I want to be the first person who graduates out of my family for college. You're not doing that for yourself. You're doing that for your family. And are you sure that's what you want to do?
But it's always like this dramatics of like, there's never someone that's like, I like music.
Oh, there was that one guy who was like, I graduated from high school. I became a refrigerator repairman. He was like a couple seasons ago. And he's like, I was singing on a job site and someone said I should come to The Voice. Yeah, wonderful. I love that. The singing plumber. I don't know if anybody else knows this. And it's kind of like funny. Unfortunately, the man has passed on. But if you know who sings All Star, so Smash Mouth, the band, the lead singer was actually hot wiring a vehicle and singing while he was hot wiring a vehicle. And someone heard him. And instead, actually, I think he ended up hot wiring the record executive's vehicle or whatever. This is the story that was put out in the 90s or 2000s. So as I've now learned as a millennial, there may be a whole documentary behind how that didn't actually happen. But this is what was like said. And they heard him singing and they signed him and his friends in a band.
After trying to hotwire a car.
So it's just like different situations. Or it's like, I love the ones who were, I honestly do like the ones who were, I was a mom. I went, I took care of my kids, I did my thing, and now everybody's off. They're on their own adventures in life. I want to start my adventure. That is an inspiring fucking person.
Oh, that like 56-year-old woman. She was lovely.
Fuck yeah. She goes on, she's like, I'm doing this. Not even just like, when you're saying I'm doing this for me, you're not being selfish. And I think there's a lot of shit that's put on, especially moms. They're like, you're being a selfish bitch. No, all her kids have graduated. They've moved on with their lives. Half of them are married. They're having babies. And she's like, I want to sing. This is what I want to do. And she gets on The Voice. Like, that they do all the pre-checks and all the other stuff. And she's on there and she was on there. I think she's done there. Yeah. And she's doing, and she like did really great. And like, that's inspiring to me. It's this chronic, like, poor me syndrome that's out there. And I think that kind of comes down to, like, there's a lot of people who start freaking out when they're in, like, grade 12. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I haven't heard from universities or colleges. I haven't heard from this other stuff. And it's like, I understand that there's other expectations that may have been put on them, but they shouldn't be freaking out that much about waiting for a fucking letter. They should be like, you know what? If I don't get into those, this is like my plan, not a backup plan. I'll do this. Maybe I'll travel. Maybe I'll get a job here. Maybe I'll take other things. Like, there's so many people who have that one track set in their brain of what they're going to do. And then when it doesn't happen because they don't happen to fit all the statistical boxes and trauma dump and do all that other stuff, then it's like someone pulled a rug out for them and they're like falling and they don't know what to do.
But then I also feel like once you do get into the career,
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that are like, this is not what I thought I was signing up for.
100%. Like, our mom went into the early childhood educators program at the age of 18 years old at college and literally was in there and I am not old enough to do this job.
Mhm.
And it wasn't because other people were telling her that. They were talking about tons of stuff. I think they started talking about child abuse, and I think her mom was like, peace the fuck out. Not that she wasn't aware, but it was just there was so much. She thought it was going to be fun, crafts, teaching kids stuff, and then they started out with the really hard stuff, probably to weed out people at the beginning of the program. That's what they do at a lot of them. And she was like, no, not for me. And then she went back and ended up doing something that was like similar, but kind of elevated because it was different, because she had seen all the people who like worked with our brother. And she was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be, and it's called a CE, certified education assistant, or some people call them teacher's assistants, depending on where you are, districts, stuff like that. So imagine if she would have done that. She could have been in school and then maybe not gone to like parties or whatever and met our dad. And then the entire course of her life would have changed.
Yeah.
And I think that's a whole thing too, is it's like, oh, you leave. And then people just like hold on the fact of like, oh, you left. Oh, you left that program. You didn't finish it. It's like, well, that person didn't feel ready. It wasn't what you thought it was going to be.
But I also think that, like, you can get to your career and then you're like, oh, this is actually terrible.
Oh, yeah. Like, I worked at a communication company for 10 years. I learned so much shit. I learned as much shit where I feel like I could have just gotten like an honorary full-blown business degree. And then after I was like, when they did the voluntary departure program, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave. And then I was like, what? I liked what I did to a certain aspect, but I was also like, what do I do now? And I was like, did I even like the stuff that I was doing, or did I just do it because it was my job?
But I think, like, you can be in the moment and not, like, you can have bad days in your job. That's very different. But, like, when you reach a point in your job where you're, like, miserable,
Yeah.
you're anxious to go in every day, like, that's shitty.
Like when you're barfing every single day before you go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, I have to go to work. I have to put on this persona.
Yeah.
And it's not actually what I wanted to do.
No, and you feel like you have this like obligation when you shouldn't actually feel like you have an obligation. But of course, the world costs money. So you're like, I might as well keep doing this because I have the education behind it. And, you know, the world has to keep running, but I don't want to fucking be here.
I think it's also what holds a lot of people's pension.
100%. I don't know why all we do is think about the end game versus like actually being happy while we're getting there.
Like being 20, like you get a university at 24, 22, and you're like, well, I got to work for retirement. I'm going to do retirement's in like 40 years.
Yeah.
Like 43 years.
You're lucky.
Like that's like what they tell you, like 65, but 43 years.
They just extended it to 70.
Don't tell me.
Yeah.
Watch, when I'm about to retire, it's going to be like 95.
They'll be like, we forgot how to make people live to 140.
But then that stress of like, oh, just go do the job because you don't like it. I have seen so many different like educational programs now that I'm like, man, if I knew that was a thing, I would have totally done it.
Right. I feel like there's a lot of them that just randomly start coming out because somebody else didn't realize it either and then did the job and was like, there should be a course on how to do this job.
No, like there's one in the castle in Scotland, and it's Scotland or England, and you can learn how to do embroidery. You know, there's an embroidery degree.
Well, that's the whole thing. There's stuff like that. Or there's, oh God, what was one of the other ones?
Medical,
Transcription?
no, not medical. That's medical. Oh, somebody who anatomy, like somebody who draws the things in the textbook.
Oh, my other favorite was, I had no idea that this was a job. I know obviously you would know because you've gone through the medical stuff. There was at one point where I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And our mom was like, oh, did you know? And it's the cleaning of the medical equipment and you set everything up before surgeries.
Lab tech.
Yeah, I had no fucking idea that that one thing of making sure it was sanitized and set up was literally one job.
So I went through the rabbit hole of random different jobs. For example, naming paint colors.
Oh my God. I would love to work on that SE nail polish game and name those nail polishes. The names that they come up with are fucking hilarious.
Bear has one. Every time I look.
Like, I want to know, like, how did they get to that point? Were they just that super creative person who, like, hey, Judy, what should we call this? Let's call it yellow mustard. Or
sunshine on my mind.
Yeah, or like, yeah, or optimistic sunshine or something like that. And then you're like, and then they're like, you know what? You're really good at that. You should be the only person who names colors. How do you get to that point? There's so many random things that I always wonder, like, I'll say that I wonder who thought of blank. And my husband will look at me and be like, I don't know, you could probably Google it.
But even like naming different models of things. So like the Sony, I think these are Sony. No, they're Skull Candy. And they're called like the Hesh Evos. Who was like Hesh Evo?
I know, it's like, you know when you watch like an Apple keynote speech and they were coming out with their new hardware and they called it like, what's the new one? Sonora?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Before that, they had animals and they'd be like, we wanted to call it lion because it's one of the most robust things. And they would like tell you the story behind it.
Yeah.
I'm always like, but how did they get there? Who was like, let's go with lion? Or we like the Lion King? Like,
or like business name generators.
Oh, yeah.
Like that used to be a job. Baby name consultant.
What the fuck? What's another random job? Oh, I was just talking about this the other day. Oh, one of them was car paint colors, but that's like the same kind of thing.
Paint colors.
Oh, who names vehicles? Is it the manufacturer? Like, do they have a team who just names the vehicles? Because some of the names that are coming out now, I'm like, are those words?
Well, because they used to be named after, like, things used to be named after a person.
Yeah.
So, like, macaroni and cheese was named after Mac. It was, like, John Mac and something.
Oh, I thought it was named after that guy who, like, wrote in, what's his name? Not John A. McDonald, because that's a Canadian guy.
You're giving Joan of Arc right now. Columbus.
He wrote in and he told them that the English were coming or whatever in Boston. It's part of like American history. And you know, they called it macaroni. You know, that's the kid's song. Put a feather in his cap and called it macaroni. I thought that's where that name came from.
No. It was like some Italian.
Oh.
But like Galileo. Constellation.
Yeah, like who literally, I want to know who named half the foods that we fucking have at this point.
But then how does that relate to colors? Like, did orange the color come first or did the fruit orange come first?
I saw something the other day that said it. It was orange, the color came first because it originated from someone like naming the colors in the sunset. And then the fruit orange is named after technically like the sun. And there's a whole thing. I literally just read this. The irony of me being allergic to oranges and being fed this in my TikTok feed is kind of ridiculous.
But like every time I sit there and I go, who named this?
Who got from point A to point B? Like, or how was this one thing invented? Is it because you'll read about like one day they woke up and thought of blank and you're like, but how did they get there?
But I think because like if you have a job that's very monotonous, like you just kind of go through the day and do the same thing every day, people are like, oh my God, I hate my job and this stuff. And like, I regret my job. I wish I could do this. You know what I would love to name? Mugs. Like, you know, random projects that are like, name this mug.
What do you mean, like putting
Kevin
in the mug? Oh, yeah. I randomly name shit all the time.
Naming like a dog. Kevin.
Yeah. There's so many things that you don't even like expect to be a thing. Like there used to be like cartoonists and now it's like 85 different versions of like animation.
Well, there's storyboarders and then there's characters, and then there's voice, and then there's this, and then there's this. What bothers me is that now it's so hard, like, people don't take talent, they take experience over talent.
They'll take experience over talent, or they'll take education over everything.
But it's usually, like, if you have the same education, like, it's experience over talent. Like, this person could come in and be like, I know how to do all this, and someone's like, well, like, for fashion.
Yeah.
And someone new comes in and they're like, I have this great idea, I want to be a part of this. And they're like, you have to be an assistant because you don't understand.
Yeah, you have to start from the bottom and then go up.
But if somebody who has put in a ton of work outside of it and has a lot of talent, why aren't you giving them the tools to succeed in that area?
Oh, I know. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like, I remember one time I was looking at doing event planning, and someone was like, well, what experience do you have? And I was like, well, I worked at the Ramada, and I did event planning there. Like, I would help people plan their stuff, as well as set it up, as well as run the room, as well as, like, bartend. Like, we did many roles there. And I'm like, yeah, but, like, you weren't running, like, your own thing, or you have to know people in order to do that. And I'm like, why? Or it's like, how do you know that you can do these things? Well, I just know that I can do them. Like, on a almost daily basis, even I get people going, you know how to do that? Like, do you mind doing that for me? Do you know that people charge blank to do that? And we're like, yeah. Or our personal favorite, oh my God, did you know you can make a company out of that?
I'd like to make a statement that, yes, I understand that things can be in company, but I do not need 75 businesses going at the same time.
Right? It's like, oh, you can make this a company. You could do this. First off, do you guys know how fucking annoying it is to do A, government paperwork in order to become a certified business, and B, the taxes?
It takes close to 8 months to register a business.
Yeah.
And that's talking on the low end.
And people are like, oh, you don't really have to do any of that stuff, though, until you hit $30,000. Wow, what a misconception.
My other thing is when people are like, oh, if you use your name.
And then it's a sole proprietorship. But still, you have a $10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. You still have to put it on your taxes. It's not like you go on Etsy and you get all the money minus the Etsy fees. Like, you have to be putting, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing is, like, when people come out of different careers, like, our mom was in administration for such a long time and then raising kids. And then she would, like, hop back into administration. And I remember her being like, well, like, I really want to go to school and do this, but I just, like, don't know. And we're like, well, then, like, do it. Like, you want to do it.
I think it's really hard, though, to make a jump because it's like, it's safe to stay in the career because like, funding, all of those types of things. And, like, if I, like, in the future, I would like to own a cafe bookstore with a floral shop on the side. Do I have any?
That's like every ADHD girl's dream, because mine was always a comic book store with ice cream and a coffee shop.
Mine, I wouldn't mind ice cream, but I think I like a bakery. I think because it doesn't seem as stressful to the outside eye.
It does.
Like, there's a lot of things through that, like taxes, money, rent, all of those types of things. But when you're sitting there doing an office job, doing like data analytics,
you're doing the same shit over and over again, opening the same Google spreadsheet, making the same data look pretty.
You're also not, like, if someone comes in and you have a regular, okay, his name's Joe.
Yeah.
Joe gets a black coffee 3 cream. You talk to Joe every day. You see Joe every day. You build that connection with them. It's like a small town vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Floral, maybe somebody's, like, someone's birthday. It's Valentine's Day. You're, like, creating joy. Book, like, oh, I really want to read a book like this. Like, you're finding something that's going to bring someone joy in their life.
Yeah.
Versus, like, data analytics. Like, to somebody who, if you want to write a book, that whole part before it, you're not like, oh my God, this book's going to be in someone's hands and they might love it and this might get them to start reading again.
Yeah.
It's like you're doing something to, like, boost someone's life, but people don't realize the back end of how much effort it takes.
Also, like, because I did data analytics, sometimes you're sitting there and you're just, like, making data look a specific way, or you end up determining, for example, that, like, an entire department doesn't need to exist.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, yeah, well, and they're like, oh, great, thank you so much. But then it's like 5 people either lost their jobs or got moved into different places. And like there's all these other things that kind of go behind it just because you were clicking away on a Google sheet. Hey everybody, it's Sarah. Just wanted to let you know that this episode actually ended up being like almost 2 hours when we were recording it. So what I am going to do is I'm going to split this up. Most likely the second part will air on Monday unless we see a ton of views and a ton of asks to have it launch on Friday. So comment down below if you would like the second half on Friday or on Monday as per our regular scheduled programming. And as per usual, stay as warped and twisted as ever. Real raw and ready to talk today. We'll be back next Monday with more in store. Catch you then, we're always here for more.